Any discussion of functions in Excel invariably begins with the sum function and often is followed by how to use the average function. And then, although we can go in different directions certainly, a few other functions like finding the maximum value, the highest value in a range, the lowest value. That's the normal starting point when we talk about functions in Excel. Let's just bring out a couple of ideas about how to use these functions. First of all, the Auto Sum button is a shortcut for typing equals sum. You'll find it on the Home tab in the Editing group, and you'll also find it on the Formulas tab in the Function Library. You'll see it right here as well. And by the way, you can also use Alt equal to activate that as well. Alt equal is the same as typing or using the Sum button. And many times you'll learn quickly, too, that you can add up data in a column and instead of adding them individually. It saves us a good deal of time. So a simple example here might be to click Auto Sum, and as is often the case, Auto Sum looks for data both above and to the left of the cell and tabulates the information. And we might want to put totals out here in column Q. That might be a better place, although it certainly wasn't wrong to put them here. Same idea here. And also notice to the right, I've already put in the words average, high, and low. And so a typical usage here might be use Auto Sum, the Auto Sum button here, click it. Excel makes a good guess. Might hit Control Enter here. Then what? Possibly copy it down the column, and double clicking will get us there a bit faster. And we might want to do the same thing with average. Now, average doesn't always occur to everybody when they're relatively new with Excel. And so what some people would do, and it certainly wouldn't be wrong, is to write a formula. Equal this total divided by, in this case, how many states do we have out there? 7 to get an answer. And we'll come up with this answer, and then we could double click to copy that down. So average is certainly used frequently as well. Now, I'm going to undo that. Not that it was wrong, because it wasn't, but you might have overlooked the idea that you can use from the Auto Sum button, because it has a little drop arrow, or in this case here, it has other functions we can get to as well. So we can do average this way. Now, notice here, though, the average is a bad guess. We don't want to average the total as well, but we might want to take this highlighting and slide it leftward so that the average truly does do this. And so we'll get the correct answer. Now, interestingly enough, if you have the Home tab active, Auto Sum there has a drop arrow to the right, and you can get to it there and use average. Again, average making that same mistake, so to speak, of not choosing the data that we want. A little tricky there to get just that. And there too, we'd copy this down the column. Now, high I put here purposely not to say max, but that's the function we use there too, and we can get to it the same way. We want to know the highest value of all these cells. And so when we click here, max is right there too, and same general idea. The layout style of these tends to be the same. Usually it's the same cluster. And here too, if we don't really want to include those two, we wouldn't. We want to know the highest value in that range, same general idea. And of course here you would know that's MIN, meaning minimum. Same general idea here. And here too, we only want to include those cells. And a quick copy here by double clicking, or here, and here, double clicking. And then a quick readjustment. We've got those as well. Now, I'm not necessarily suggesting that everybody's most frequently used function list always includes max and min, but they're easy to get to and they're handy. And it does remind us that many times when we're dealing with data, whether it's a small set or a large amount of data, we frequently need to not only tabulate totals, but also to get averages, to get the highest and to get the lowest. Let's also note something here too, when we're using Auto Sum, that sometimes you might have data in a column like this. I'm just putting in the numbers somewhat arbitrarily here. And you might have numbers to the left of a certain cell. Anytime you click the Auto Sum button, Excel looks first upward for data, like here. If it didn't see data looking upward, it would look leftward. Now in this case, suppose you really don't want to add those cells above. You want to add the ones to the left. Well, then you would intervene and go highlight these. And you can simply control it yourself. And we're all done here. So be aware of that. And that works the same way when we're using the other functions as well. So a starting point for most people in becoming familiar with some functions in Excel would be the 4 functions of sum and average, and then max and min. Now, if you're a statistician, you're going to be saying, I need to do a standard deviation on these numbers. And so you probably would pursue that. And it would be a good guess that it begins with the letter S, but I would advise, well, you'll decide. If you type equal and hit the letter S, what's likely to be next? The letter T. And then you might be a little bit surprised that there are quite a few variations here. So probably at this step, if you'd never used these, you'd have to go figure out which one you might use. But surely that's the kind of function that a statistician would need to find. And for a statistician, this would be one of those so-called basic functions. If you were a mathematician or an engineer, of course, you've got a different set too. So many different kinds of people use Excel, and so trying to come up with some kind of a master list of functions that everybody needs isn't always the most obvious thing to do. But at least we have ways in Excel of finding those functions, and the examples we've just seen are using some of the more familiar ones that almost everybody will use.